Welcome back to Queen Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Elise White,
And I'm your co-host, Quandras Sims.
and we are so excited to bring you a special mini self-care series unpacking the emotional shifts inside Netflix TV shows that we have watched and loved, featuring Forever and Four Seasons, and how changing your perspective can change your whole life.
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited about this. I absolutely loved both of those TV shows.
I know, and they were so overlapping and completely different, right? All at the same time.
Yes, that's a good thing to say because a tribute to the community with Forever. I feel like they captured the
Culture.
essence of the experience. And in Four Seasons, it had a different perspective. It was a different culture, but it had a lot of millennial culture in there, in my opinion, and just things that we can relate to from an adult perspective of relationships. So both of them in their own right were really, really, really good TV shows that you could
Right.
see yourself in.
And love was evident in both of them, right? There
Love
was
was at the center
teenage
of
love
both.
all the way to adult marital love, and then the phases of that. And I just think it's
Mhm.
beautiful the naming of them for number one, because it's Forever was the teenage love, but then you actually see Forever play out in real life. The whole princess life where then they lived happily ever
Ever
after.
after.
And then it's like, well, what happened after? Because four seasons. Facts.
Yeah, so let's
Wow.
get into it. So, episode 1 of our mini series is going to be discussing boundaries, burnout, and being the friend who's always there.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, it is deep.
Yeah, for sure. So take a deep breath. One,
Yes.
two, three.
Buckle up.
Because you my bestie.
You gonna say this?
You
I
my
know. And I just like, should I cover my eyes already? I know I'll be letting you have it.
So today we are talking about friendships.
Yes.
It hurts me when, inside joke, the one where you always show up, but it can leave you feeling a little bit drained, or just the levels of friendships, the nature of friendships, the seasons of friendships,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And yes, should we let the audience in on it hurts me when let's
I think we have to,
at
right?
this point. So we have both been through many seasons of our life where sometimes we found it a little bit more difficult to let people in.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it was to our own detriment. You just trying to like, protect the feelings of others and things like that. But within that, not expressing how you feel to be able to overcome conflict, right?
Mm.
And so there was a season when me and Elise were roommates, and something would happen just in a house. We're in college or whatever. I don't even remember the stuff that would happen.
Wait, by the way, for those who don't know, we focusing on four seasons in this episode, but just FYI.
Right. We
FYI.
focusing on Four Seasons, but perspective, right? It kind of ties
Yes.
in because you would be going through something and you would feel a type of way, whether it was with me or something else in general,
Yep.
and you had a hard time opening up about that. And I would sit, not nose to nose, but I would have sat nose to nose and waited for her to open up. And it would just be one of those things where I was like, let's give a guided, like a prompt. All you got to do is just finish the sentence.
Wow.
That
This
was
was
prompts before
popular.
prompts. I ain't know nothing. So I was just like, I'm going to start it. It's just going to say, it hurts me when, and I'll say it. You don't have to say it hurt you. I'm not even pretending it hurt you.
Yeah.
You just tell me what the situation is. So it hurts me when, and then she would be like, the dishes or whatever the thing
Whatever.
was. The thing was, and
I
it
had,
helps. It helps.
it
So
did.
but to tie it into a perspective situation, sometimes our friends can help us through those times where we need to open up, right? Whether it's us helping our friends set boundaries for themselves, or if we need to create boundaries for our
Yeah.
friends. Absolutely.
So forever, well, not forever, but there was friendship elements in forever a little, well, because the teenagers
Yeah.
were obviously had friends, but four seasons really spoke to how your friends evolve. And sometimes you might be closer or you might not be as close. You might not be talking every day. Or I remember the one clear relationship. It was the Tina Fey and the black guy. I hate to not know all of our character names. Let's pull up the best friend. Yes. But he was like, I just need to establish boundaries with you. You can't talk to me the way that I think you've been talking to me probably for years and I've been putting up with it. But
Yeah.
now, today, I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
when you do that.
Yeah.
And I've been carrying this with me for a long time. And it's becoming draining, whatever it is that you're doing right now. And how do you go about having a healthy conversation about that when it's starting to feel a little bit draining?
And it's just so interesting because in the dynamics of relationships, right? Or anyone, friendships, family, you can give jabs at your person, right? You can do these things to your person, but you might feel a type of way if someone else gives a jab to your person, right? Like you
Correct.
might feel like offended by it. And it was clear that he was offended by it and that he needed to let her know that he was offended. And I felt like you said like it had been going on for a while. And it was, he didn't say it soon enough because he was deeply offended by the time he said something. He was all ready to stop talking to her. He was at his boiling point, and that's why
It
it
hurts me
is
when it
important to
matters.
just get it
Yes.
out. Like, I don't not getting things out, even if it's uncomfortable in a moment. Get it out. Let's work through it. I probably
Right.
didn't see it that way, which is why perspective is such a big deal. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about these situations and having that your own growth, you can be grown and still have growth, right? And they were completely
Absolutely.
grown in 4 seasons, but he decided enough was enough. And I just never think
His name
it's
is Danny. I pulled it
Danny.
up.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. I
Danny,
like
and then
Danny.
and Tina Fey's character, by the way, was Kate.
And Kate, yes. So
So
I
I
just feel
yeah,
like the situation is never too, it's never a situation where it's too late to put your feet down. Just,
absolutely.
it's never,
You
in
can
my opinion.
always, yeah,
You can always put your foot down when you're just constantly, or you're in situations where you're uncomfortable or you're offended or in danger or whatever. You might have been down for it and now you're not. And that's just what it is.
right.
You're
And I
done.
think the big question for this episode we really want to talk through is when you have friends, but
Yeah.
you can do a check-in with yourself with your friend groups or with your friends. Am I
Yeah.
showing up from love or obligation because I'm resenting
Mm.
something?
You
You
don't want
know?
resentment to start creeping it up. So it is good to do like those little checkpoints here and there so that you
Yes.
don't get to that boiling up point and potentially end a relationship that didn't need to be ended. Some of them need to end. It's okay.
Right.
And
And
that's
it's
okay.
okay. And that's I feel it's always a thing. And that's okay. Because
That's okay.
again, perspective matters. And I think both
Right.
episodes played a beautiful role in showing us the perspectives of what everybody was going through, which gave us almost an unfair advantage of
Yeah,
what the other person does because everybody genuinely comes from a me place when you hear things or if you're
they do.
impacted something. I know I do. It's the first thing that I
Yeah.
feel, how I feel about it. And then it's like, oh, well, what might that other person be going through?
You have to sit back and think about it. Now, I know one thing that I don't know what could have been going through his mind with this plan, like this. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen 4 seasons, and if you, I probably should have said that, if you haven't seen 4 seasons or Forever, it's going to be heavy spoilers. But
Right.
like the
What was
opening,
spoiler two? Talk about it.
okay, the very first episode of 4 seasons, and I felt like it could have been a potential burnout from his friends, right? What he did was he told his friends before he told his significant other that he was going to divorce his significant other.
That's so disrespectful.
It's disrespectful to the spouse. And I think it's disrespectful to the friends because why that it was a burden that was, and then he was like, whew, got that out. He felt
He
like
got it off
super
his
light.
chest.
That I'm like, yo, this is crazy. You can't
However, devil's advocate, unmarried woman perspective, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Sometimes your friends can help you through your deep thoughts that you don't feel confident sharing. The character in that we're speaking about was the Steve Carroll who played Nick,
yeah.
and his wife at the time who was Anne, and that's Carrie Kenny. So perspective matters, right? They were married for 25 years. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably hard for him to say that, and he wasn't in
Absolutely true.
therapy. So his therapist was,
His
is that
friends,
wrong?
I know. And I think they touched on, not to jump back and forth between episodes, but they definitely touched on that in Forever and how it's important to sometimes have a therapist so that you can get an objective opinion and not dump all of
Yes,
your situations on friends. And
correct.
But I think that you could be right. I'm not saying that, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying it was without care or thought to how what the situation, like what they put or what he put the friends in. Now
Yeah. Because they
what
were
if
both equally
they're
friends.
close to the spouse too, and now they
Right.
have to sit back and look at her knowing he about to get divorced. And from how my perspective of how I saw it was, he wasn't coming to them for advice. He was coming to them with a final decision. There was
Right.
no going back. He's just giving them a heads up, right? And it
Facts.
was like if he were coming to them, hey guys, I don't know what to do. This is what I'm thinking. Then it would have been like, dang, that's crazy. But I would get it from that angle that he's really trying to get advice and has no one else to talk to. But he was just like, nah, I'm done.
Because we're nice, we're not going to tell you how he went about telling his wife. You got to watch the episode to find that out because that was crazy.
Yes.
That part was devastating.
Oh, a whole episode. The whole bottom half of the episode. And it was just episode 1. And I was like, oh my goodness.
After I watched that though, it was one of those shows where you look at your and we're talking about Four Seasons, but Four Seasons is one of those series shows where you look at who's the characters and you're like, oh, this is about to be funny. And then you get in there, you're like, oh, wait, but this is deep. But
you're still laughing, but
right.
they're talking about the way that they go about explaining the characters and the personalities of the characters. You can see a little bit of yourself maybe in some of the characters,
Yeah,
but
for
it's you
sure.
see their perspective and they have no clue what the other person is thinking. And you can see, just looking in on it as often as easy, you can see how communication is amiss because you have the inside tidbit, like you said earlier, on what everyone's thinking.
And I have one spoiler before we move into our self-care practice that I want to talk about from the friend dynamic. Coming
Okay.
with that main question theme, like, am I showing up out of love or am I showing up out of obligation from what I have to do to be your friend? They had a lot of obligations from a trip perspective. So everything when their friendship was about these gatherings that they did almost annually, whether if it was a ski trip or a out, what were they, at a camping trip, or they had these gatherings that were trip related.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost offensive if somebody wanted to do something out of what they know, the
Yeah.
norm, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
build those norms do bring a sense of comfort, and we'll tap into how evolution impacts people when they grow in the later episodes. But I just thought it was interesting to watch the friends have experiences that they experience each other for, and they're like, "Oh, we always do this. Why are you doing something different? You got a new girlfriend now, Vic." Who is she? And she's not about what we usually do. And who is, and I'm offended. It's offensive because
Yeah.
friends operate out of the comfort of, I can depend, right? And now I'm waiting to exhale bag. Count on me through this. I can depend on getting this level of the you-ness that I'm accustomed to having. And when
Mm.
it changes, I'm actually really offended, personally offended.
Something's off, and you could tell how they're just side-eyeing the situation
Mm-hmm.
and all the changes, and which is like if he moved on. And it's just a tough situation for friends to be in when someone in the group who y'all have been together so long as a group, when someone has a big life-altering change.
Oh,
It deserves its own space for friends to be given time, everyone to be given time, because it's not like when you're in a relationship or you're in a marriage, you're married to that person, but you're also very close to, you have friends that you're very close with, and
right,
everyone is like, what is, you coming together in a way that's bigger than just the two of you. So it's just they split, and the friends are still trying to navigate, who am I, your friend and not their friend? And it was clear.
right.
And I like that part. Everyone decided like no one's going to stop being friends. And I like that part of it, but it was still too, it seemed soon. It was all within like a short period of time where they were already on the next trip. And he has a whole nother person there, and they're
Right.
used to the spouse. We're doing something that we normally don't do. It was too many changes too soon, and they could not wrap their minds around
But
it.
they was going to stick beside them, and I think I
They
appreciated that
tried
because they loved each other. They
because they
love
love
as
each other.
friends, as the friend group. They
Yeah.
were like, "There's love there, so we gonna roll with it. We're not happy about it, but we're going to roll with it. We are not happy about
That's love.
it."
And that's why I say love is like an action word. Like you gonna,
Mm,
you know what I'm saying? Like you're really, if this was your choice, it wouldn't be going this way. But for you, we gonna go on ahead.
Lord. So Our self-care practice tip, I think we're going to use a little bit of a playbook out of our friendship, right? And the friendships that we had when we lived in Aramango, because I think that's where it started. Shout out to Philadelphia. It hurts me when can be a power statement for boundaries, for showing up for yourself, to maybe dive deeper into a bigger conversation, and really honestly to share your perspective. And you could probably apply that to all relationships, but friendships especially, because being passive aggressive ain't lit in 2025. And it's important for you to show up and share what is bothering you, and so that that person can maybe alter that opinion by sharing their perspective, because they had no idea that's what was hurting you.
That's a big part of it. This whole perspective, the whole thing on perspective is that my perspective might be very different from your perspective. First, I have to understand what my perspective is, right? That self-awareness, and that it hurts me when I understand what part of this is hurting me. You know what I mean? Because if you don't know, sometimes we do just feel hurt and we don't know why. And that's why they say sit in it so that you can understand it. Just sit in it a little bit so you can understand why it hurt, so that you can go through it hurts me, so that you can voice it out loud and know that they probably didn't mean it like that. Ooh, that kind of reminds me of the Four Agreements, that book, like that whole thing. Taking it personal when they furthest, it's the furthest thing from their mind. Whatever you're thinking that they're doing, it's the furthest thing from their mind. So it's important for you to just voice it in that way so that you can work through it.
For sure. So I'll leave you with our affirmation of the day. Your friendship love does not require overextension. And the way you get through that overextension is by having that conversation. If it hurts you, when.
I like it.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to settle with that. We're going to let you rest well. We all do know that every situation is very unique in its own right. So there might be some things where it hurts you when it ain't going to work. And we understand that. But we wanted to shower you with a little bit of perspective, mindset, and thoughts, because we really love these episodes, both for seasons and forever. So check us out for our next episode, which is really going to put more of an emphasis on forever.
Yes, we're going to get into it. I'm excited for that.
Well, catch us back soon for another episode. You can find us on all podcast playlists and YouTube channels at Queen Beauty Podcast.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye.